Hello everyone, Jay Whitner here with Kickstarter coaching and our internet TV show, Crowdfunding Coverage. We do a quick 10 to 15 minute recap of what happens each month in the crowdfunding space. So today we're going to be talking about June of 2016. In June, there were 8 big campaigns that raised $800,000 or more. Collectively, they brought in $22 million. The biggest campaign was from the Pebble smartwatch company, their third giant campaign. This one brought in almost $13 million. So we'll talk about the news, and then we'll talk about these 8 big campaigns a little bit. We start with Indiegogo. They've come out with a new feature called Collections. It is another effort on their part to sort of show people crowdfunding campaigns they might have an interest in. So check that out on Indiegogo to help you find campaigns you might want to back. Also on Indiegogo, they made an announcement that a company called Crwdfndng is going to help with the logistics of some of their campaigns. They're apparently going to select certain campaigns for this extra support. I don't think they actually explicitly said that, but presumably it'd be the bigger campaigns. So another effort to help creators get the products out on time to the supporters of the campaign. In June, the House committee that focuses on crowdfunding did some action to address some issues, some concerns people have had about equity crowdfunding. And as this headline indicates, it's sort of a halfway fix. They're making some progress or looking at some issues, but they haven't covered all the biggest things that people wanted them to get into. One of which was increasing the cap. The current cap in the law is $1 million a year. A lot of advocates would like to see that raised to $5 million, which they did not do. You can Google this exact headline to see more details about that. This is another headline about the same thing, indicating they're working on it. And they're making some headway, but not the full boat. We have the first reports in on the very earliest days of equity crowdfunding. And I know that this chart is too small for you to see, but they've gotten started up. 40-something campaigns have already been launched in equity crowdfunding, with the leading platform being WeFunder. And my interest in crowdfunding doesn't go back to the very, very beginning of Kickstarter, but I presume this is very much like things were in the early days of Kickstarter. So we'll have to see over the balance of the year, how equity crowdfunding really gets rolling. There was an interesting article, and it talked about a ruling from the SEC about how equity crowdfunding companies can advertise their offering, exactly what they're allowed to do or not do in terms of advertising. What you see here on the screen is not the entire article, but what I again would urge you to do is Google the headline of the article so you can read the entire thing. But the SEC, in a letter that they wrote, sort of opens up the advertising gates a little bit farther than it had previously been thought. So there may be clarification on this over the next month or two, but a good sign in terms of getting the word out about campaigns. So in crowdfunding in June, there were 8 big campaigns, as I previously mentioned. They range in size from just over $800,000 to about $13 million. The video length was quite interesting this month. It's a big part of having a successful campaign. And we usually recommend 2 to 3 minutes is a good length for these things. And this month, the range was from about 2 minutes to 22 minutes, which, as far as I can recall, is the longest Kickstarter video I've ever seen. And I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched for 5 minutes and then I moved on, which is one of the big dangers of having such a long video. The length of the campaigns themselves range from 29 to 45 days. The reward levels that people offered range from 6, which seems a little bit on the skimpy side, you want to give a choice to your supporters, to 24, which seems a little bit on the high side. And updates, we had 5, which seems a little light, to 17, which seems, I'd say about right. I think at least 1 or 2 a week is good. So if you did 2 a week, that's you put you right in that zone of 17. So the campaigns themselves. The first one is the BioLite-based lantern. This is for camping people to have light outside when you're off the grid. Their campaign, they had 6 stretch goals in it that they reached. They offered some good accessory products that you could buy if you want to get some extra stuff for your campaign. And they offered 2 sizes of their light. Primarily battery capacity was the big difference, so one lasted longer than the other. But they raised over $800,000 for the campaign. Well done. The next one was the Bobby, and this is a backpack designed for city use. That is a high security backpack that's going to foil pickpockets and so forth. So they have a lot of things in their design. It's cut resistant, and the zippers are all hidden, so people can't just reach up and reach into your device. Some of the interesting aspects of this campaign, their units that they offered in various rewards went up to 50 units. And this is something we've been seeing more and more often recently in Kickstarter. They used to have this 10-unit cap, which they've taken a step back from. So up to 50 units was in their reward selections. They also had an interesting decision that they have shipping for every backpack is included no matter where you live. So if you order the thing and you're in Germany or you're in the US or in Japan, it doesn't matter. It's all the prices included for your shipping. They also had a very unique touch to their campaign. That if you shared the campaign on social media and took like a screenshot of your doing so and send it in to them, they would send you a free gift that they would mail to you, a small the RFID blocking thing like to protect your credit cards. So definitely small, light, and affordable. Still, a free gift. All you had to do was promote the campaign. So that was a good strategy. Next, we have the Geo-Orbital Wheel. This is a different wheel that you put on your bike as the front wheel, and it has an electric motor inside this wheel that converts your current bike into an electric bike. Very elegant solution from a former SpaceX engineer, among other people. So a good campaign. They raised a lot of money. They used GIFs and supplemental videos. Don't forget, your campaign has one main video, but you can have as many extra videos as you want to explain what you're doing. They had breaks on the price for early backers. This is called early bird pricing. They had 3 different levels of that depending on when you came to the campaign to support the early activity. And 4 stretch goals in their campaign. And they did quite well. Next we have a game. It's a tabletop game called $1 Million But. And it's lighthearted, obviously. It's a game. But some of the things that they did in their campaign to raise their $1 million in real life were supplemental video. They had that extra video explaining the game and how to do everything. They had stretch goals that they reached, and most of them were about achievements instead of dollars. So it was like how many likes on Facebook they had and things like that to encourage the community to support them, talk about them, and so forth. But perhaps part of why they made it is the video is a little bit funny and self-deprecating. I'm not going to try to explain it. You can go watch it if you like. They weren't taking themselves too seriously with their campaign. They were, cutting up on their video a little bit. And I think that helped them have a warm reception. It humanized the campaign. Next, we had another game. This was a video type game, a computer game. And they raised a lot of money, over $1 million. Some of the neat things they did with this campaign, Chronicles of Elria, where they had a soundtrack that you could like listen to while you're looking over their campaign page. It's like that little toggle switch, you know, play those, you see those embedded audio things. So you could turn that on if you want to listen to their music while you were looking at their campaign page. They had $1 million of funding for this project before they launched their Kickstarter. The Kickstarter was intended to be supplemental funding to improve the product. So don't think that Kickstarter has to be your sole funding source to do whatever it is you're trying to do. It can also be an augmentation or completion of the funding that you need, as opposed to providing all the money that's necessary. And these are the people that have the 22-minute Kickstarter video, which I've never seen one that long. And again, I confess I didn't watch the whole 20 minutes of video, 22 minutes. You don't want to do this. Make your video short. If you want to have more video information, use supplemental videos. Next we have the Noria. This is a new take on an old thing. You know, those cubicle window air conditioners, room air conditioners that you see. Well, this is sort of a modernized, smaller version that's easier to install and doesn't take up your whole window. They used GIFs, the mini videos and supplemental videos to explain what they were doing. They also had early bird pricing to reward those people that stepped up early to help them out. And something that was a little bit unique, one of the questions about these devices is typically, you know, it's going to be really noisy, you know, this device. So they had like a nice graphic that showed the sound level of this machine versus other real life sound things that you might encounter to let everybody know that this is a very quiet machine in a graphic way. Perhaps my favorite campaign this month is this Meat Pilot. And it's hard to tell from the image here, but this is, if you're a Star Trek fan, as I am, you might recall the Universal Translator from the original Star Trek series that translated any language into any other language. Well, this is sort of what they're doing, but it's like with an earbud. So you have your smartphone like on your hip or in your purse or whatever, and you just put in this earbud, and it translates right in your ear what the other person is saying. And it comes with 2 of these earbuds, so you can have one for yourself and one for the other person. So like if you're in another country, you can hand the other earbud to a person and have a conversation with them without having like phones in your face and all that. It's very comfortable, unobtrusive way to do it. With I think they're starting with 5 languages, and they're moving to 12 languages in 2017, if I remember the details properly. But a really neat idea. This one was on Indiegogo. They raised over $2 million for their campaign, so it was quite financially successful. They had the early bird pricing, like we've talked about before. It benefits early people that get early into the campaign. They offer it in 3 colors. This is something I tend to harp on a little bit, but if it's economically viable with what you're doing, give your customers a choice of colors or textures to the extent that you can. Also, they had a supplemental video here to really show, again, the capacity of the device and showed it translating some unusual words like you wouldn't really hear in everyday conversation necessarily. But the big campaign in June was from Pebble. They are the smartwatch company, and they are crowdfunding royalty, the leaders of Kickstarter. They've run 3 campaigns at them research, all of which have broke $10 million. So they've raised a huge amount of money, and this campaign was no exception, the biggest campaign of the month. Again, they use those GIFs and supplemental videos to explain their products. Their technical products, maybe they merit more explaining than some other types. They had the early bird pricing, rewarding people that contributed early, like I've mentioned previously. But also they had real choice for their supporters, and they had 3 different models. They had one watch that was very affordable. They had one watch that was more expensive, still quite reasonable, but a more expensive watch that had, you know, a different case, different size display and everything. Um, and they're such a unique property because they have such a huge relationship with backers. They've had these huge campaigns in the past, so they can leverage on that for current success because they have contact information for oceans of backers from prior campaigns that are big fans of what they do. So that was the scoop for June of 2016. Thanks for your time. We'll be back in about a month talking about what happens in July, and we will see you then. Take care and have a great 4th of July.